Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Always happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets life. You're watching on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and you're listening on MixLR.com /WakeUpCallDT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.com. Very, very happy to be here today with Kelly Grinnell-Seibt, and she has had a fantastic ushering in to her time coaching the women's basketball team at OCC. The Lazers have been near and dear to my heart for a very long time. Over a decade that Mike Wheeler was there, I got to know him over there, and obviously the former athletics director that was there, a very, very good friend of mine, in Rob Edson. So there was a lot of great things that connected me to OCC over the past few years, and to see the success that they have had here in a new era, I cannot wait to share this conversation with Kelly with you. So Kelly, how you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Kelly, I mean, for me, OCC has always had a special place in my heart. My mom went there, and I got to know a lot of the coaches over the years, be it Coach McDonald as well as Mike Wheeler, Dave Paziak when he was there, Eric Cerrone, obviously now Chuck Wilbur, and so on and so forth. And as I mentioned, Rob Edson, who has run it all. Just for you, bring me into the story of OCC, how you first got connected with them and what brought you back.
So head coach Mike Wheeler recruited me out of high school. I unfortunately went to a different school my freshman year. I ended up transferring into him my sophomore year in 2010. Played for him for a year, and then I ended up transferring on to Brockport for my last 2 years. But yeah, my 1 year at OCC under Mike Wheeler was so special, hence why I coached under him for the last 8 years and now taking over his program that he built up so well.
And when he decided to step aside from the program, you've worked with him for such a long time. You've known him for such a long time as well. And like you said, 8 years of coaching under him. Did you feel it coming, or were you stunned?
So, we've been talking about it in recent years, but it kind of came out of nowhere. COVID really, in our region, I think 4 coaches decided to step down. I think the year off, gave them a different view on what they're missing out at home, because we're in this season for 7 months and you're missing out on your kids at home. And, if you have a spouse at home, it's a lot on them. I think he just really missed out on his kids' sports, and now he's loving life, and he's a hockey dad now, and he's in a different ice hockey rink every weekend. But, he caught me by surprise. He actually called me the day before my wedding in July, and I didn't process it because I had so many other things on my plate until after the wedding. Always great timing on Wheel's part. But so I did not see it coming this year, but I thought, in the next, maybe 5 to 8 years, maybe. But yeah, it definitely came out of nowhere.
So he calls you the day before your wedding and says, "Hey, I'm going to be stepping down." When did you process that?
Honestly, we went away for our wedding, and we were there for a week, and then we immediately went on to our honeymoon for like a week and a half to 2 weeks. So it's probably 3 weeks, and I got home and I sat down. I said, "Wow." He asked me if I wanted to take over his, prestigious program. I said, I've never been a head coach before. I've only been an assistant under him. Right out of college, I joined his staff. And I didn't think I was ready for it. He assured me that I was. He was a big advocate for me taking over, and I'm glad he did, because I'm having a heck of a ride, and it's really fun.
Why did he tell you that you were ready for this?
Yeah, he must have just, from the last few years, hearing me on the bench, seeing me in practices. We had a really good coaching staff for the last 8 years I was there with him and Bill Motto. So I learned a lot, just not even from Wheeler, but from Bill Motto. He was at Casanova College before OCC, and I just absorbed a lot. I was like a sponge. I absorbed a lot between the two of them. And, I grew up with my dad as my coach, and all my college coaches told me, I had a very high IQ as a player, and they could tell I was a coach's daughter. And I think just the mixture of all of that together just made me ready.
So here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal Studios with Kelly Grinnell-Seibt, the head coach of the OCC women's basketball team, Region 3 champions. You got the MSAC Player of the Year. You make it in the NJCAA Division 3 National Tournament. I mean, these are all massive, massive accolades. How did your first season taking over as head coach turn into something like this?
I honestly don't know. At the beginning of the season, we were worried that the season wouldn't last. There was so many spikes in COVID. Every day was a mystery. You never knew what was going to happen. And we had to pause for a little while. And I had 14 kids and they're all freshmen, right? Because, we're a 2-year school. Last year, we didn't have a season. So everyone coming in this year, whether you're a sophomore or freshman, you never played before at the college level. Yeah. So with 14 freshmen, athletic freshmen, I had no idea. And, we started off the season 2-0, and then we lost 2 in a row. So we were sitting at 2-2. And it was a little frustrating because, they say, freshman mistakes, and that's what we were making. We never played together besides 2 players, Avi and Macy from OCS. But we weren't meshing well. We had to learn, about each other, our styles. And after those 2 losses, I think that's when we really came together and just ran off with it.
And like you said, having these players be all, whether they're sophomores or freshmen, that they're all athletic freshmen. You said those 2 losses taught you something, in the first couple games of the season. You win 2, you lose 2. You haven't lost since. You won 22 games in a row after that. Yep. How does such a young group learn so quickly of those 2 losses? There's teams that are together for years that can't seem to stop the bleeding. How did you find an entire team of youngsters playing together, except for, like you said, 2 players? How did this team come together and find a way to not let losses compound?
So we have a very local group. All 14, except for 2 of them, one's Waterloo and one's Elmira, come from Section 3. And I talk about all the time how Section 3 has such great sports teams. I mean, we are located in such a great area to recruit. So I had kids who've been at sectional finals, state finals, So I have gamers, I call them, where they just love the game. They're so passionate. And after we lost 2 games, after the first game, they were upset. And after the second game in a row, they were crying in the locker room and they were upset and they were mad. And I just remember the very next day in practice, they were holding each other accountable. They weren't letting giggling happen. They weren't letting, anybody take plays off or, not run a sprint to the best of their capability. So I think the passion that they have and the talent level and where they come from really help them just come together. And I don't name captains. I'm just not a fan of naming captains. I expect everybody to step up and be a captain. So I think that helped as well, that all 14 kids came together and stepped up and helped each other. So, I say it all the time. If we lost those 2 games, I don't know if we would have went on that 22-game winning streak, because we learned a lot from those losses, more so than if we won those games. So I'm happy about it, actually.
And I'm looking at these schools, Paul Moore, Elmira, ESM. There's players on your team that I know and I've spoken with and interviewed, from West Jenny and Liverpool, at Waterloo on here, Syracuse Academy of Science, as well as, like you said, Onondaga Central, Chittenango. And, seeing that and knowing that OCC really does, take those players that are homegrown and develops them, just what that means to you and how exciting that is for you. I love it because, selfishly, I get to see the players I covered in high school get to stay in our community, but it says so much about the talent of our community, seeing the success you've had with them. And it says a lot about OCC that you're so dedicated to the area. So just what you can say about, the talent here for women's basketball and staying dedicated to that talent.
Yeah, so our name is Onondaga Community College, and I'm a firm believer that it should be a community team, and the more local kids you have, the more fans you have come out, because mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, cousins, whatever, high school friends will all come out and pack our stands. So I think it's just there's a stigma with community colleges right now. They call community colleges 13th grade or whatever. So the fact that we can keep talented girls basketball players in our area and locally just speaks volumes about Section 3 athletics. And it doesn't matter the class size either. We had AA kids, A, B, we have some C. In the past we've had some D kids, and it doesn't matter. Obviously your AA kids are going to have maybe better fundamentals, better competition in high school, so they might have a little bit more experience. But we've had some very talented Class D kids come through as well.
Yeah, and you have on your coaching staff someone who's one of my favorite Central New York players of all time, Sam Roberts. Just speak with me about having Sam there with you and just the importance of her being a part of your coaching staff.
So when I got this frantic phone call from Wheeler the night before my wedding, that was actually one thing that ran through my mind is, who the heck am I going to have on my staff? I mean, Bill Motto left with Mike Wheeler, and so when I got back from my honeymoon, I was running through my head. And in my last 8 years, I've really held on to ideas like, what of the kids that I've coached are going to be future coaches? And 3 that stuck out to me was Jordan Vaught, Sam Roberts, and Amber Meggs. And Jordan Vaught is now at Bishop Grimes under John Cifanelli, back to her stomping grounds. But Sam Roberts was my very next phone call. At OCC, she was our leader in assists. She had over 500 assists in 2 years, which is amazing. I mean, she had averaged 11 to 12 assists a game. And just talking about gamers on my team this year, Sam Roberts is just a winner, and she plays hard. She loves the sport. She loves winning. Sometimes in games I look at her, I said, calm down, you're a little crazy over there. But she just is so passionate, and and she's so great with the kids. They really they reach out to her and they can really relate to her. She's been great. She's been awesome.
And I want to take some time to shout out, like I said, Liverpool and West Jenny connections here. Amaya from Liverpool, and then Julia and Isabella from West Jenny. Just what you can say about having each of them on your squad. I gotta shout out my Wildcats and my Warriors, because I've been so blessed to have them on the show before.
Yeah. So, Julia and Bella, like I said, they come from state championship teams, and they've been on our radar for not only their senior seasons, but, going back from, sophomore, junior years. And West Jenny's in our backyard, really. So, we've been to a lot of their high school games, and just what they could bring into the program has been great. And, Amaya took a couple of years off at Liverpool. There was like a coaching change, and she just didn't feel it was right to be where she was. So, she's a great kid. And again, just getting these local kids, and Amaya's sister is up and coming at Liverpool. I hear she's doing great things, and she'll probably be up on varsity next year. But, and it's good because, we get these kids, and then, future, Wildcats and Warriors will come up, and they'll want to, trace their footsteps and maybe come play for Onondaga women's basketball. So it's great.
Yeah, and I love that. And like you said, that connection with West Jenny right there in your backyard too. Julia with 19 blocks that I'm seeing here on the season. Just what you can say about her presence inside.
I mean, blocks, but rebounds. I mean, in a regional championship game, she might have only scored 6 points, but she had 18 rebounds. I mean, other people on our team can score. We know that. We have 4 kids who average double digits. But we don't have anybody who can get 18 rebounds a game. And that's what Julia does so well for us. Rebound. I always say, if you win the rebounding battle, you win the game. And, without Julia rebounding 18 on Sunday, I don't know if we would have won that game. So just her presence, her 6 foot presence in the middle of our 2-3 zone is just huge. And, the blocks that she gets and any points that we can get from her are great. But yeah, she's been phenomenal.
I like the fact that I interviewed her before she got to 6 feet because I'm 5'8". So it's nice to have like that balance. But we're here with Kelly Grinnell-Seibt here, the head coach of OCC women's basketball, and a lot of success this year in her first season taking over the program. Could you envision yourself anywhere else? I mean, I know that might kind of hit you with that, right before the wedding, but I know you just shook your head no, that you really couldn't see yourself coaching anywhere else.
I mean, I love coaching, but I went to Robert Schlesney my freshman year, transferred into OCC, and then Brockmore my senior year. But hands down, my favorite experience was Onondaga. And I try to tell the kids that I'm recruiting, like, there's nothing like playing for a 2-year community college. Like, it's just a different feel. Like, it's a family-oriented environment. And, my teammates from Onondaga were a couple of my bridesmaids in my wedding. Like, I hold on to relationships from Onondaga so much more closer than my other colleges. It's just such a special place. I'm surrounded by awesome coaches. It doesn't matter the sport. The athletic director that we had prior, you talk about Rob Edson. I'm very, very close with Sue and Thomas and Tracy. I talk to Sue all the time. Just had a long conversation with her last night. And, I just have such good support from my current athletic director now, Mike Borsch. So it's a great place to get my feet wet. But you know what? I can see myself staying here for a pretty long time, as long as they'll keep me.
Yeah, and seeing what you've done, already early on here, which is amazing. How old are you, Kelly?
I'm 30.
So 30 years old, having a season like this and moving forward. And Region 3, I've gotten to know all too well, covering OCC. You ran through it in the tournament, Hudson Valley Community College, beat them by almost 40. Then Herkimer County Community College in a tighter game there, and then North Country Community College. Just bring me into Region 3 because people, with the NJCAA, a lot of people don't fully understand how difficult it is to get in the national tournament. So just what you can say about, Region 3 and how you really have to run the table when you get into that postseason time just to have a hope of being a part of the national tournament for the NJCAA.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how many regions there are in the country. So there's quite a few, probably about 15. So Region 3 pretty much ranks one of the toughest regions in the country. So our semifinal game against Herkimer was extremely close, almost like a championship type environment. And, North Country, we go neck to neck with them almost every year in the championship. But year after year in our top 10, top 15 rankings in the nation, there's 3 to 4 Region 3 teams. And, and even if, you see that we get a double-digit win, we had to work hard for that. Most of the time it doesn't happen until the fourth quarter. And I use my practices for that reason. They run a lot in practice and they do a lot of sprints, and I tell them that they'll thank me later because games will be easier than practices. And that's just the style that we play is fast and, practices are hard. So I think that helps us in games a lot, is that in our fourth quarter, we just kind of take and run. But it's extremely hard to get to the national tournament. This year, it's the first year that they did at-large bids. Normally, you have to win your region, which we did, and we're going. But North Country also got an at-large bid tonight. So it just goes to show that, competition in our region is tough because they got an at-large bid.
And I was going to say that too, the at-large side of it was like non-existent. So now there's life to that here. Yep.
So they've done it in Division 1 and 2, but Division 3 for the National Junior College Association, they haven't done it until this year. That was pretty cool. To think that even if you lose in the championship, you might have a little bit of hope left while you watch that selection show. So it's pretty neat to see that North Country got that at-large bid, and I actually just got off the phone with him. I said, "See you in Minnesota next week." So it's pretty cool.
And I want to show everybody here is that I have the bracket right up here. sent to me from Kelly here, and to look at the brackets, you are a 3 seed for the NJCAA Division 1, 2, and 3, just like the NCAA. Help people kind of break that down. So the NJCAA here, 3 divisions. OCC is in Division 3. You are a 3 seed, and so you have an automatic bye, and you will play the winner of Rock Valley, who's a 6 seed, and Hostas, which is an 11 seed. You'll play, or is it Hostas? Hostos, yeah. So I know I said it wrong the first time I said it a couple of years ago. Doesn't matter, you're playing them. So you could be, but March 10th at 8 p.m. Central Time, so 9 p.m. Eastern Time is when your game will be here. Just what you could say about, being a part of this national tournament and knowing that Hostos and Rock Valley, you're going to be able to really watch your opponent and have that extra time to prepare as you have, more days before you get started.
So, getting a bye, the top 4 seeds get a bye. And, it's beneficial in some aspects, but then again, we don't know who we're playing first round. So we kind of got to prepare over the next week for one or the other. So I'll be watching game film on both sides, in practice we'll be going over both teams, offense and defense. But you know what, Rock Valley, last time we went to the national tournament, they were the host. We lost to Hostos in that regional or in that national tournament, and they ended up winning the national championship that year against Rock Valley, who has won it multiple times in the past. So whichever team we go up against, they've won a national championship before, and we've never won it before. We've come close. In 2009, Mike Wheeler and his team lost in the national championship, but this program has never won it. So to go up against a team with experience who've won it before, not the players, but the coaching staffs, and if we get a win first round, that'll be really cool.
Yeah, and such a great thing. As great as, Mike's teams have been and ranked nationally in the top 3, sometimes the top, seeing everything that OCC women's basketball has done historically, but has not won a national championship. That opportunity is ripe for the taking. So just a final note here from you, Kelly. Congratulations on so many things, on the player accolades, on everything you've done as a coaching staff, on the school itself, on your opportunity that Mike believed in you. There's so many things to congratulate you on in the MSAC, in Region 3, in the national tournament, and just overall. What final notes do you want to make as you get set for tourney time, and what do you want fans to know on why they should tune in?
These 14 kids that I coach are extremely special. They've been working hard for the last 7 months, day in, day out, 6 a.m. practices, hard strength and conditioning sessions. I owe it all to them. I can't, we don't win these games without them. They say the same thing about me, but, they're the ones that step out on that court, while being full-time students. So, they're a very special group. I'm glad that they're my very first group. I'll remember this for a long time. But the fact that, they went to battle for me for the last 7 months, people should tune in. They're fun to watch, and they won't be disappointed.
Kelly Grinnell-Seibt, OCC women's basketball head coach for the Lazers. Kelly, thank you so much for being a part of the show. I will be watching and tuning in very closely, and I could not be more happy at everything that you've been able to do. And, if you get positive words from Mike Wheeler, then you're good people in my book. So thanks for all the work that you've done for our community. Thanks for caring about our young women here in the community. And truly, whatever happens, I hope you win a national championship, but no matter what, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I love this community and I know you care about it too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.